Hi, and welcome to Spoonful of Strength. I'm Rachel, and I live with multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, and a few other diagnoses that keep life interesting.
And I'm Tina. I am a fibromyalgia warrior with chronic back issues and a proud stage 4 cancer survivor. We're sisters, and together we're here to support, inspire, and connect. So if you're new here, the spoon theory explains how we navigate life with limited energy or spoons.
And we're thrilled to share that we've been ranked number 30 on FeedSpot's Top 100 Chronic Illness podcast list. So grab a spoon and let's dig into stories, tips, and a whole lot of strength.
Welcome to the newest episode of Spoonful of Strength. We hope you have all been doing well. This week, our topic, Rachel and I, we're going to be talking about how do you explain a good day, having a good day without invalidating your illness, because that can kind of be a tough topic at times.
Yes, it certainly can be. In part two, we're going to be joined by Zach. Zach is a 26-year-old disability advocate, becoming paraplegic after a semi-truck accident in 2023. He's turned his experience into advocacy for disability rights and also plays wheelchair football and wheelchair tennis. So we'll be excited to talk to him in a little bit.
I have a question for you this week, Rachel.
Okay.
You sound a little nervous.
Well,
What?
let's see. All right. Let's see if I can nail this one.
Yeah.
What's your question for this week?
Okay. What is your go-to healthy comfort food?
My healthy comfort. It's funny. I don't, comfort food to me is all the really not so healthy stuff. So, the cupcakes and the brownies and the stuff you don't get every day. But as far as healthy stuff, I really love a good salad and chopped salad specifically. And I eat that for lunch quite a few days a week. And it's just one of my favorite healthier options during the week. But I also really love a good soup. And I had made a couple weeks ago a homemade chicken and noodle soup, and it was so good. And it was just so easy to put together. And I even threw it in the crock pot and it cooked all day. But something like that is just, to me, comfort food as well. So salad, you wouldn't think it was too much of comfort food, but it really, when I look at my day and I want to do something a little bit healthier, I know I'm making a better decision by going that route. But the soup is a good dinner and something that just gets you warm inside and makes you feel good. So what about you?
Oh, yeah, I tend to, when I'm looking for comfort food, I'm a little bit opposite of you, is where mine is normally for junk food is the chips and dip. Like I'm more of a savory person. But
Yeah.
as far as healthy options, this time of year, I really love the fresh fruits from the farmer stands.
Mm.
And the and tomatoes, garden fresh tomatoes. I can just eat slices of tomatoes if they're fresh from the garden. But also in the fall and winter, I'm right on board with you with soup. I love making homemade soups, throwing them together in the crock pot, and depending on the type of soup. And it's not necessarily a healthy side addition to the soup, but like a nice, warm, crusty French bread with butter or something to go along with the soup too. But so a small little piece of that. But So,
Well,
and it's easy. And the reason why I asked this question is because we've been talking about the importance of self-care and eating and making eating healthy and things. And so it's, just a way of saying we can still find comfort foods. We can still
mhm,
have comfort foods that don't have to be bad for us.
yeah. Well, we're going to end this podcast early because now I have a really I need to go make some soup because now you've got me craving soup. So,
And now I
but
want to go make, I have to do I have a sourdough starter that one of my
uh,
sisters gave me, and I'm gonna have to I have to feed it this today. So I'm in the mood to make a big loaf of sourdough bread and a big
yeah,
pot of soup.
yeah, good,
Yeah.
good.
Which is funny because it's still like in the 80s. Today's going to be 90, but it's starting to cool off enough in the evenings that the morning, like night and morning, early mornings feel pretty good. So it's getting me itchy to start that soup cooking already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. I know it sounds weird to have soup in the summer when it's 90 degrees, but it tastes good all year round.
It does. It does.
So before we get started, we ask our Instagram this question. How do you explain a good day without invalidating your condition? We had some great answers. I'm going to share just a few here. Western Window said, I don't know, but I think where I'm at is that I say what I want to say without trying to manage how the other person will interpret it. If I'm happy because I'm having a great day or week, I say that. I think it's really good for me to express that without trying to manage someone else's perspective. And I think that's just a great way of not worrying about other people's expectations. Multiple underscore sclerosis underscore fighter 31 said, I usually say that my symptoms and pain aren't as severe on good days. That way people don't hear that I'm cured when I'm not. We always appreciate Instagram comments and love sharing your perspective on the podcast. So keep those coming.
What do you feel is a definition for yourself of what a good day is?
So I think when you have multiple chronic illnesses, sometimes they overlap a little bit. And I think looking at like a healthy person, well, a good day for them is a day where they have great energy and they can get a lot of stuff done and they don't have any pains or anything like that. I think that what I struggle with about defining a good day is a good day for me is when everything's just turned down a little bit. So, like the volume on a radio, everything's just quieted down. I don't have days where I have a lot of energy. I don't have days where, I can go out and take a run or even, take a long walk or a hike or anything like that. A good day for me is when I can get through the day without feeling completely exhausted by the end of the night. Or a good day for me is being able to get things done around the house and feeling like I'm being productive. But I think what people struggle with is saying, "Oh, I'm having a good day today," and people kind of assuming that it means that you're completely well and you're completely healthy and not feeling any pain. And I think that's the one thing that is hard to communicate to other people who don't have chronic illness.
Mhm. Yeah, that's I completely agree with you. To me, a good day for me is I had the energy to clean the kitchen and cook a good dinner versus having to DoorDash or something like that. It doesn't mean that I was completely pain-free or that my energy level is where I wanted to be. It was that I was functional enough to even just get a few things done.
Mm-hmm. And even emotionally, a good day is different than a healthy person for me because as with the physical pain, we've talked about it at length of the emotional part of chronic illness. And even for me, a good day is keeping my spirits up and not getting frustrated with myself for not getting things done, or a nice dinner on the table when my husband comes home. And, things like that is more emotional for me, of feeling like I am able to do that for him. There were nights yesterday, for an example, I don't know what was going on. My stomach was a wreck, and Ed came home from work, and I literally met him at the door and said, "This is what you need to do to finish dinner. I got to go lay down. I'm not feeling good at all." And, just told him, get this out of the oven, warm this up, and be done with it. And so for yesterday, that was a little bit more of an emotional day, and feeling like, gosh, I wish I could have gotten dinner on the table for him, and that. So, what do you think emotionally, how your good days kind of vary?
Oh, sure. I definitely go through, like you just mentioned, the days where you're frustrated because you feel like you weren't productive, or you weren't. I guess it's at times easy to get inside your own head and let that frustration and the negative self-talk creep in. And
Mm-hmm.
so a good day is for me emotionally, a good day is a day that I am able to give myself grace if I'm not able to do as much as I wanted, if I couldn't accomplish everything I wanted to do, instead of beating
Mm-hmm.
myself up, saying, you know what, this is what my body needs today.
Mm-hmm.
And just letting your mind let that go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always an easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Feel like when I'm talking to Ed that I can say, "Oh, this has been a good day." I think he understands that that doesn't mean that I was feeling great and ran a mile and all of that. He gets that. But for other people, whether it be family members or friends, do you feel like saying, "Oh, I've had a good day today," kind of invalidates your condition?
I think in others' eyes it may, not
Mm-hmm.
in mine, if that makes sense. I think that they may, for them, those that don't understand the ups and downs of chronic illness may not understand that for us saying we have a good day, again, just means that we had a day that's better
Manageable.
than other days. Yeah, a
Yeah.
manageable day.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like for certain people, you feel like you have to not just, what's the word I'm looking for? Expand on that comment, of
Mm-hmm.
going, for me, this was a good day. I'm feeling better than usual, or, it's like you have to give, almost like you have to fight that feeling of feeling like you have to fight the urge to feel like you need to explain more of what a good day is for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, sometimes if I'm going to a family event, or going out to lunch with family, I don't want to say I put on a brave face, but I mean, you're excited to see these people, and they see you, talkative and social, and enjoying the time. But what they don't see is the fact that on the way home, I'm laying my head against the side of the window, and getting home, getting into sweats, and laying in the recliner for the rest of the day to recover. So I think sometimes they only see the part, the small part of the whole day. And so sometimes they can say, well, she always seems fine. So I don't
Hmm.
understand, why she always talks about how bad she feels all the time. And so I think it depends on also the people that you're dealing with. If you have family members that don't really understand or want to understand or don't believe your illness, then that can be a little bit frustrating to be able to explain, yes, for this hour I was good and I felt okay, but what you didn't see was X, Y, and Z, and get them to really understand the power of an outing or a social event.
Hmm. Hmm. How much it takes out of you. And I think that
Mhm.
that's something that all of us, if you're out and about and you're spending time with your friends or family, um, there's couple different things in those scenarios. I do think that if it's being out and surrounded by people that you enjoy spending time with bolsters you. And so you are feeling great in that moment because I feel like it also gives you kind of that dopamine kick as well. Um, and kind of like that adrenaline high. And then once it's over, that energy dissipates, and that's when you realize how much that really took out of how many spoons it took, so to speak.
You also have to look at, is it worth it? So there may be people in your life where it's like, it's just not worth doing this event or going here be because I know how bad I'm going to feel afterwards. And then there's people in my life where I'm like, yeah, I really want to see them, so it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's kind of, I do, we've mentioned this in previous episodes, the dog sport that I play, fly ball tournaments, that truly helps feed my emotional um need and social needs, but it takes a lot out of me, especially if I'm
Mm.
traveling. If I'm traveling for a tournament and it's so I leave on Friday, I race Saturday, Sunday, and I drive home late Sunday night at the end of the day. So 3 days of go, go, go. I feel great, the whole weekend. I'm majority of the time I'm me and I'm happy and I'm like in that moment and like just living off that energy that it's feeding me. And then it takes me like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is just a complete wipeout because
Hmm.
because it took so much out of me, and then but it added more than it took away, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I was thinking about what other phrases, if somebody asks, well, how are you doing today? Or how are you feeling? I
Mhm.
tend to say I'm okay a lot, not I'm good or things are going great or I'm feeling good today. I tend to just use the word I'm okay. And I'm not sure
I'm
why.
okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
um yeah, that's I do that. I find that when I find myself using that term when I'm not really okay, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Well, I'm okay. Only because, versus, hey, I'm feeling really well. If I'm talkative or if I'm in the mood to, if I am feeling really good, I'll be like, oh, I'm doing great today. But if I'm really not, but I don't really want to share or feel like I'm burdening somebody with how I truly am, then my usual go-to answer is I'm okay.
Yeah.
And another one that I started saying, this was right after when we had lost Ivy a couple months back, and I struggled a lot with that, and and then just in general, Dave will ask me, and it's something he's always said, this unhappy, or we'll have we'll be having a wonderful moment, and he'll be like, "Are you happy?" And I would always say, yes, I'm great. I'm super happy. Of course I am. But the one thing that I've started doing is if I'm really and truly not or if I'm not in the headspace where I feel like I should be, my answer is I'm as happy as I can be right now.
Hmm.
So that doesn't downplay. It helps me feel like I can I can say general I'm happy, but I have some struggles without actually like being without a negative connotation, if that makes sense.
I think that's a hard one, and I wish that wasn't the case for you, because it is hard to communicate with everything else that we've got going on with chronic illness. To communicate our feelings is hard because it's so complicated.
Yeah.
Everything about these
Yeah.
illnesses are complicated.
Yeah.
And so it it's just hard. I mean, let's just say, it is whether
Yeah.
you're
It
feeling
sucks.
good or whether you're feeling bad, it's still a complicated question when asked, how are you doing or how are you feeling? It's still a complicated question. Are you living with pain? We get it. And we're done pretending it's just a part of life.
That's why we use the universal heat patch from Spicy. Natural, clean heat, no meds, no mess.
It sticks on discreetly, moves with you, and gives you up to 12 hours of relief. No cords, no chemicals, just actual comfort.
Created by people who live with pain for people who live with pain. Finally.
Grab yours at getspicy.com. That's GETSPICEY.com. And follow Get Spicy for real talk and real tools.
Spicy, because you deserve relief that works.
And thanks to Spicy for giving our listeners 10% off when you use the code SpoonFull. That's SpoonFull with 2 L's at getspicy.com. I think one of the things that we can do is the people that we trust and the people that are in our lives, is just really educating them on what it's really like, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and kind of reframing that conversation so that they understand when you say, I'm doing all right or I'm doing good, that they really can understand. Chronic illness is not all or nothing. It's not, I feel great or I'm sick. There's so many variables depending on
Yeah.
what you've done, whether you've been outside in the heat, um, how much that you're going through stress wise. There's just so much into it that it really is not a simple answer. So what
Yeah.
would you what are your thoughts on that?
Um, I agree. It can be hard to I feel like not everyone, and I'm not making it as a blanket statement because there are those that do understand and empathize whether they have a chronic illness or not, but not everyone that does not live with a chronic illness understands where we're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's figuring out that balance of who in your life can you be more truthful when they say, how are you doing? Versus those that, it doesn't, if I say anything other than I'm okay or try to expand on that, then, they kind of tend to give you that unsolicited.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the people who are closest to you just really need to understand what a good day means to you. And you can't, I guess if you don't share the hard parts of your illness, then it can be confusing for other people. And so those people, like I said, that you do trust, you really have to go through all the parts with them and really kind of educate them on what a good day means to you and what that a good day means I can get up off the couch and get a couple errands in the outside of the house, or I can do a couple things in the house, but I'm still I still don't have the energy that I should have. Or a good day is when I'm feeling okay about my situation and I'm not getting down on myself or um, saying negative things to myself because of the limitations that I have. And so it's so difficult just to maneuver all of that,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also very easy. I am really bad about this, and we've talked about this in the previous episodes too, of when you are having a good day, a good day of it's hard to not go out and want to do everything when you do have those days of going, you wake up and you're
Yeah.
like, this is going to be a great day. I'm feeling really good. And then you overdo it because you're having it, you're having a good day. You end up overdoing it, and then you push yourself into multiple not so good days, where you may struggle more because you overdid it.
Yeah.
I'm 100% guilty of that one.
Then, some examples of things that you can say versus saying I'm good today would be I am better than my usual. And I really like that phrase of being saying, hey, today I am better than my usual days, or
Hmm.
I feel a little better today. What do you think about that? Because I feel like that might be a good way of not invalidating your condition, but kind of trying to explain how you're feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. Of yeah, just saying, you know what, today is a low pain day, or today is a
Mhm.
blah day, or I am, or today I'm feeling better. I remember when I was struggling with my with colitis and we couldn't get it in check. I was like, "Oh, today I was able to eat. Like it was such a good day because I was able to
Mm.
eat, two small meals today, or just the small little victories." And that helps. I feel like going more in depth with that kind of helps people think that, or helps people realize that a good day doesn't mean a symptom-free day. You especially, you're very active on Instagram. You have a lot of connections, especially those with, and within the MS community as well. Do you struggle at times with on those days that you're like, I've had a pretty good day, and you get on social media and you see other people that may be posting that they had an awful day. So do
Hmm.
you struggle with feeling guilty because you had a good day and this poor person over here is having a not so good day?
Um, I don't, because I know and I try and reach out to people that are just really struggling because I've been there. I've had days like that, but I also know that they will have good days too. And because I understand the ups and downs of chronic illness, and that same person who might be going through a rough patch or even a rough few weeks or months will be able to rebound and have good days. And because we all just know the monster that is chronic illness. And so it's I would never say to anybody like it's going to get better, or sorry you're having a rough day, tomorrow will be brighter and all of that. But it's more of just like, I'm so sorry that you're having a rough time. I understand. If you need anything, let me know. But because just as I don't want me having a good day to invalidate my condition, the bad days also aren't a true representation of my life with chronic illness either. I don't feel guilty, to be honest. I don't have a lot of great days. I have some okay days, but um, I think I just am thankful that that I didn't struggle as much today. And I think that's a good way to end the episode of just understanding communication is very important of expressing how your days are going, whether it be a good day or a bad day, of just communicating what all your days look like and the people that you love the most who can see you and see how you deal with different things. They're going to understand what a good day means. And if they don't, then you may have to go with a more simple answer of I'm okay or I'm doing as good as I can and leave it at that and not have to worry about taking energy away explaining everything if they're not going to truly invest in you and get what you're going through. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I really you sum that up perfectly as far as you where to spend your energy
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in explaining how you're doing is I love the don't waste the energy, don't waste the spoons on people that aren't invested.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We've spent a lot of time on episodes looking at these different things, but taking a simple question of how are you doing or how are you feeling is more complicated. I think it was worth talking about today.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so many ins and outs of living with a chronic illness that it's important to talk about topics like this.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to bring Zach in to talk about his life as a paraplegic, his advocacy work, and the sports he loves since his accident in 2023. Let's welcome in Zach. Zach is a 26-year-old disability advocate, student, and adaptive athlete. After surviving a semi truck accident in 2023 that left him paralyzed, Zach turned unimaginable trauma into purpose. He's now pursuing dual degrees in criminal justice and engineering and channels his lived experience into powerful advocacy for disability rights, accessible healthcare, and gun violence protection. A wheelchair football and tennis player, a proud member of the trans and autistic communities, and over 5 years sober, Zach brings honesty, resilience, and heart to every conversation. Welcome, Zach. We're so glad that you're here today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. What we'd like for you to do is just go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Zach. I think you said quite a bit of it. I like music. I play a lot of different instruments. And it ranges from like classical to metal and everything in between. It's been quite a big coping skill in my health journey. Um, but I've gotten into wheelchair football, wheelchair tennis. I've tried wheelchair fencing. I will probably take up another wheelchair sport at some point. Um,
Hmm.
but I absolutely love just being involved in that and, doing what I can. So
Have you ever tried wheelchair basketball?
I have, um, they want me to join the team next season, and I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, cool. Very cool.
Wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is cool. Um, can you walk us through what happened with the accident a couple of years ago and how that changed your life?
Yeah, so I went on a trip to Nashville. I brought my best friend with me and my dog. And we were going for a gun violence prevention event that I had a few friends, organized and all of that. And so we were heading back to Birmingham the day after that event, and I had woken up. I didn't get very good sleep that night until I texted one of my friends who lives in Huntsville, because it was like a midpoint between there and Birmingham. And I said, "Hey, can I come take a nap? I don't want to drive while I'm tired." And she was like, "Sure." So we drove to Huntsville, stayed, took a nap, woke up, ate dinner, and then got back on our way. Um, and by the time we were getting back, it was dark. And not only was it dark, it wasn't raining, but it was like about to. So like there wasn't even moonlight or anything. Um, and there was this car that was in the middle of the left lane with no lights on or nothing, just like
Mm.
parked there. And so by the time we saw him, like I couldn't do much of anything. And so we hit him, spun out into the middle lane, and then got hit head on by a semi truck. Um, so we all suffered spinal cord injuries. Me and my friend have the same injury. Along with, I mean, we met over having some of the same chronic illnesses and stuff. And I think our EDS is like also why we're alive because in the same way like a lot of drunk drivers survive because it changes their way the what their body reacts. It's kind of like what EDS did for us, which is crazy because it's like the thing that caused us problems all our life just saved it. So it's been a weird full circle. And then my dog also got a spinal cord injury, and so we had to unfortunately put her down. But
Mm.
that's
I'm
what happened in
sorry.
a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
What
tragic.
were those first few days like waking up and realizing now, so you're a paraplegic, so from the waist down basically, is that right?
Yes. We broke L1 through L3. And then with the effects of EDS and other coexisting illnesses that we had, it our function level is more towards like a T6 spinal cord injury.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, like I remember pretty much everything like from the wreck. Um, I did not unfortunately pass out. And the 45-minute ambulance ride after because I was pinned up against a car too. So like we just had to wait there until somebody came and then like somebody came and they spent quite a bit of time trying to having to like cut me out of the car um and everything. Um I was just freaking out. I was like I just wanted somebody to like call my family and I'm very grateful there was this person who came up to check. I guess she lived kind of off the highway and so she heard it. And she came and she was very nice. She had gotten my dog and in contact with my family and everything for me and was just there for like comfort. And that was really, really nice. Um, but other than that, it was, a straight ICU trip. I also broke the crap out of my right wrist. I broke both major bones in it. And so I had surgery on that wrist. And so I have two fingers that are partially paralyzed. Like I can't even make a fist anymore um, because of it. But um, yeah, I think at first, like, I just didn't really know what to feel or think. I was just very overwhelmed and scared. Um, and then after some like surgeries and being with family and all of that, like it really impacted my mental health first. Like aside from the like obvious effects of like I can't stand or walk or jump or climb stairs. Um, I just kind of also lost my dog and on top of having new injuries. So it was a lot of grieving and a lot of learning. And even though what happened, I was not at fault for in any way. Um, I still at the time kind of felt responsible for it because I was the one behind the wheel. Um, and so at first I kind of just like wished the accident had killed me. Um, but I am now very, very glad that we have kind of worked through that, and I do not hold that level of impact to my mental health with it. But it made a lot of things much more complicated, especially in terms of health and having POTS, EDS, gastroparesis, all of that, and feeding tubes and lines, and it just got a lot more complicated.
Mm.
how has your mindset shifted after as you've adjusted after the
Yeah, I
accident?
think it's shifted actually quite a bit. But at first I was really depressed and a little bit like I'd say passively suicidal. Um, so I just wish the truck had killed me at first, and I was also grieving the loss of my dog from that accident. And so I was just kind of like overwhelmed and I kind of just shut down. And there was also a lot of people surrounding me from like nurses, doctors, families, rehab, some friends. So it was like a constant revolving door of people. And so I was not alone, which I'm grateful for. But at the same time, having a lot of people there, I just also kind of bottled stuff up and didn't process it as fully as I needed to for a while. But since then, there's a few ways that my mindset has shifted. I had to let go of a lot of expectations and comparisons. Like I kind of compared everything to like how I did it before the injury. And that was pretty tough because everything was like much slower from like dressing and bathing and transferring. Like you don't quite realize how much you use your legs to do things until you can't use them.
Mhm.
So I was quite frustrated with that at the beginning, but I kind of eventually just let go of all the expectations and comparisons and from everything, and I just went in with the mindset of, okay, well, what works for me now, you know?
Mhm.
Um, but the it also I think redefined how I viewed and interacted with independence as well. Is kind of about learning control over the decisions and to accept and ask for help and adaptive tools. Like they weren't limits, and I wasn't less independent if I'm just doing it differently. Um, so I just kind of started to focus on what was in front of me, what I could do, and I kind of just accepted it, and I didn't have to come like overcome it, and I stopped fighting that idea. And once I did that, I had a lot more mental space for like actually living instead of constantly like surviving and recovering. Um, so
Mm.
and the other thing was all the ramps and adaptive tools and grab bars. At first, they were kind of like reminders of limitations for me, but I also just reframed that and started seeing them as extensions of my capabilities. And I look at the definition of success in recovery in this. I used to look at like all the good days based on productivity and output, but it's much more nuanced than that. Um, and a mix of things such as, less pain, accomplishing small wins, waking up in the morning, advocating for accessibility or simply just enjoying the day without pushing our limits too far.
Mhm. Gosh. I love how you put that because a lot of people with chronic illness who have to use adaptive things like canes and wheelchairs and things. I just love how that you've been able to accept that and see that for what it is just amazing. Join Spoonful of Strength on Instagram, a community open to everyone. Whether you have a chronic illness or support someone who does, you are welcome at Spoonful of Strength. You'll get preview clips of the upcoming episodes and insight into my world as a Spoonie. That's Spoonful of Strength, spoonful with 2 L's, on Instagram. What do you wish that people understood about being paralyzed? Not just the medical part, but like the emotional or the social parts.
I think grief is a big one for me. Like grief is real and it's ongoing. And I can't just get over it right after I get out of the hospital. It's an ongoing process for, how my body used to work, things that I've lost, losing my best friend, like my dog.
Mm.
And the small like daily freedoms and things that I kind of took for granted. um Having help is also a big one. That independence doesn't mean isolation, but being paralyzed also doesn't mean that I need help with everything. And so, kind of learning to live with paralysis means like figuring out what I can do, and when I can do something on my own, and distinguish that from, more with teamwork makes the dream work.
Mhm.
So, it's okay to offer help, but it's how you offer that matters. Because there are some things where, I mean, I've had random people just like come over and like not even ask, but just like start praying. Or I've had like people in the grocery store just like legitimately come up and move me. And I'm like,
Wow.
I get the intentions are most of the time good. But it gets a little frustrating. Um, but I think accessibility also shapes a lot of my social life. There's some like friends that think most everything is accessible, and like of course I can come to whatever like event or space. But like if there's steps at the entrance or inaccessible bathrooms, which is a huge one, by the way, like you'd be shocked to know how many bathrooms like aren't actually accessible. I've been in quite a few where I either can't even get into the stall with my chair, therefore I cannot transfer safely, or I can go in and I can transfer safely, but I can't close the door. So um, it's whack in like the tight spaces. Um, I either can't come or I spend most of the time exhausted from navigating, the barriers, and can't fully enjoy um whatever it is. Accessibility, like it's not a bonus, it determines if I can even participate at all. um and then on the emotional side, even like a good day, physically, there's pretty much always like a mental toll. I have to plan routes, manage beds, appointments, supplies, co-pays, budgeting extra time, constantly advocating for access. It's like the hyper awareness and how the medical system is designed. You're like the patient, but you're also the doctor, but you're also the nurse, and you're also the pharmacist, and you're also the patient advocate. um, and it's pretty consistent and exhausting, and I feel like most people don't really see that side. And so relationships can shift a lot too, and not because of anything like really bad per se, but like more just like drift apart because they don't know how to adapt. And I think overall, like paralysis changed a lot, but it doesn't erase humor or hobbies or romance or ambition. And a lot of us live really good and full and active life. We just do it on wheels instead. So the narrative shouldn't only be about tragedy. It should be inclusive and resilience and adaptation and just a human experience in between.
So you advocate for disability rights, accessible health care, and gun violence prevention. What fuels you for all of these causes?
Um, I think, well, the personal experience is a lot. I was in a school shooting when I was in seventh grade. And so that, pretty quickly, it was also in 2012 is when I was in seventh grade. So it was a few months before Sandy Hook. I didn't grow up with like active shooter drills or anything. And so I just like grew up and watched it increase and increase and increase. And to the point I've had other friends who have been in school shootings and um other things. And so I think for gun violence, for LGBTQ rights, disability rights, all of that is some level of personal experience, but then community and the need for it. The world is kind of whack right now, to put it nicely, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, but I think having that community and that need, like if I can even help one person by like sharing my story or um anything like that, then it's worth it for me. And hopefully somebody else can come along and not have those experiences or it be better for them. So
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who wants to speak up for their illness or certain rights, but just doesn't know where to start? I feel like you've done such a good job with advocating for many different areas. So what kind of advice would you give to them?
I think there's a couple things I would say. And the first would be to like start small and start where you are. You don't have to lead a rally or put up a viral post or whatever on day one.
Mhm.
Speaking up can be as simple as sharing your story with a friend or posting, a short thought online, or asking some questions in a doctor's appointment. Um, but you need to kind of identify a goal or like what are you fighting for and what do you want the outcome to be? And then I'd also say to lead with your lived experience. You don't have to be the most qualified or have all the answers. Your perspective is already valid and valuable. Um, and so lived experience is a form of expertise that, people can't Google. So I'd say let passion pick your focus, and speak up about the things that affect you or make you feel something, whether that's anger or joy or frustration or sadness or hopefulness. And if you care deeply about what you're speaking up for, your voice will carry more weight and you'll have the energy to keep going when it's hard. Um, I would also recommend finding community or people in your corner. Join some online groups or communities or local organizations that are supportive and connected to your cause. It's easier to speak up when you're not the only voice in the room. And I think lastly, I'd kind of say accept imperfection. Um, you're gonna say things awkwardly or wish you had worded something differently, and not everyone may agree with you, or it might take a few times of repeatedly speaking up for the goal to be achieved. But it's all part of the process. The point is to be heard, not to be flawless.
Mm. Great, great advice.
Yeah. You mentioned the sports that you play. What role has the sports played in your physical recovery and your mental health recovery?
Sports have played a really, really large part physically and emotionally. Physically, I'm building up more strength and endurance and building upper body strength and core stability and cardiovascular endurance in ways that traditional rehab doesn't really match. Sports has also like forced me to refine some motor control and chair handling and reaction times and making adjustments and adaptations, which all carry over into my daily life, being able to navigate different spaces or transferring safely. Um, it's also helped with pain and spasticity a little bit. Regular movements keep me active, and from my muscles tightening up, and it helps reduce other complications that come with like just being sedentary. Um, and like tennis specifically too. I got involved in tennis pretty quickly after I got out of the hospital. My wrist was still like broken and healing, and I could not put pressure on it. And so I started learning to play tennis with my left hand. Now I serve with my left hand, but I can use my wrist and put pressure on it now. So we've also used that to rehab my right wrist, which has been helpful. As far as mental health goes, it's given me a confidence boost. It's remind me that I can still set goals and train and improve, not in spite of the wheelchair, but with it. And it provides good stress relief. It's been a really helpful outlet to channel different energies and be constructive and fun while doing it. Um, all sports have values that go with them on and off the field, and so it reinforces some of my core values in my daily life. And just being on a team surrounded by other adaptive athletes means I'm in an environment where my wheelchair is normal, and not a conversation starter or anything. And that's built a lot of community and belonging, and it's been priceless for my mental health.
Mm. I love that you do that. I think that's just great. I love that it's given you all of that confidence and everything. Final question would be, what have you learned from everything that you've gone through? And then also tell our listeners where they can find your story and follow you on social media.
Yeah, I actually really love this question. And I've learned so much. But I'll share probably like the five biggest lessons I've learned from my experience. And that's I've learned that resilience isn't just about bouncing back to who you were before. It's about growing into somebody stronger, wiser, smarter, more adaptable than you really ever imagined. I've also learned that life will throw you a lot of curveballs that you can't imagine or prepare for. But the ability to pivot and slow down and break things apart and find creative solutions and let go of expectations and resentments and just keep moving forward is a skill that applies everywhere. for literally every aspect of my life. Um, and rest can be productive, and asking for help is not a sign of weakness. I used to view a lot of independence as meaning do it all alone. Um, but I think real strength is knowing when to lean on others and letting them be a part of your journey. Um, a lot of them they want to be there. They may not always know how to do it in the most optimal way, but ask for the help. Um, and then communicate to get what you need. You cannot live this life alone all the time, and it's not meant to be lived in such an isolating way. Um, and advocacy is everywhere. Whether you speak up in a doctor's appointment, in your home, or with your friends, or a workplace, or online public space, you matter and you're valid, and you will always have an impact. Sometimes it creates a ripple effect that you never see. But they're there and they matter. And advocacy isn't just like a choice, it's a necessity, and community makes the journey lighter. Which brings me to, I guess, like the last two biggest lessons is I've learned that community changes everything by being surrounded by people who get it or are willing to be open and learn. Um, is more than support. It's a lifeline. And so last but certainly not least, joy can exist with hardship. Um, Even in the most difficult season, one, it never lasts forever, and two, it's possible to laugh, dream, build a meaningful life. Hardship doesn't erase joy, it just makes it more deliberate and meaningful. Um, but my TikTok and my Instagram are the same. They're at the strategic paraplegic. Um, and that's where to find me.
Great. We'll tag your Instagram and TikTok so that they can click on it and follow you. I wrote that down. Joy can exist with hardship. I wrote that down. I thought that was really good.
That, yeah.
Tina, do you have any final questions or thoughts?
No, I'm thankful that we were able to connect, and it's just you're very inspiring, and just keep on doing what you're doing out there as your advocate and advocating for yourself and others, and it's just, you know, amazing work.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm also glad we got to connect, and thank y'all so much for having me and also asking some really great questions.
No, you're so welcome. We enjoyed it.
I'm so glad we were able to connect with Zach, and just oh my gosh, just doing amazing things out of such a tragic, like, really, when you think about it, two major tragedies, and
Hmm.
throughout his life, and just the classic example of putting a positive spin and making a positive impact out of the tragedy.
Hmm. And I wish we had time, I would have asked him, but I can't believe it's only been 2 years since his accident. I feel like with that big of an injury to be able to go from that car accident just, about 2 years ago to to where he's at now with advocating and also the sports and everything. I mean, gosh, I'd probably still be crying in a corner. I feel like, I kept writing things down because I'm like, oh, I like that. And like I said, I wrote down joy can exist with hardship. And just loved that so much because it is true. Just it seemed like everything he said was like so inspiring, but also something I don't want to forget. I just loved his perspective on everything that he's been through.
Yes, yeah. Having progressed so far in such a little amount of time, when you think about the timeline of that accident is just, um, it
Amazing.
just says a lot about how they are, like what he is, how he is as a person, and
Hmm.
just meeting those obstacles just head on and adapting. It's very, very inspiring. I have no doubt he inspires so many people with what he does.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. We're coming to the end of our shorter summer season, but we do have one more Spoonie coming up next week. So, as great as the season has been, and what a great Spoonie in Zach, we're looking forward to another week with Spoonful of Strength. If you don't follow our Instagram page, get on Spoonful of Strength and give us a follow. We post when episodes are airing, as well as some fun questions for our listeners. And we hope you have a wonderful week, and we look forward to talking with you next week. Take some time this week and save some spoons. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Spoonful of Strength. We hope that you found a little inspiration and maybe even a new perspective to carry with you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit that like button, follow us for more, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And if you're feeling generous, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your support helps us reach more Spoonies just like you.
Until next time, remember to take care of yourself and keep finding strength in your story. Bye for now.
And see you next time on Spoonful of Strength.